The emergency signal traveled faster than light itself, bouncing through 17 star systems in less than an hour. It was a code that had not been used in over 2,000 years, a summons reserved for only the most terrible crises. Every species in the Galactic Council recognized it immediately, and every species felt cold fear when they received it. Ambassador Zithrek of the Velnor Collective was the first to arrive at the meeting place. His body was made of living crystal, and as his shuttle approached the hidden station, his form flickered with nervous energy. The station itself was ancient, built in orbit around a dying brown dwarf star that gave off barely any light. This was intentional. The location had been chosen because no one would ever think to look here. No one was supposed to know this place existed within 6 hours. Representatives from all 43 spacefaring civilizations had gathered in the great obsidian chamber at the heart of the station. The room was massive, designed to accommodate beings of every shape and size. Some floated in liquid tanks. Others perched on specially designed stands. A few existed only as projected consciousness, their physical bodies too large or too fragile to travel. But one species was notably absent. Humanity had not been invited. High Chancellor Morveth called the session to order. He was ancient beyond measure, a being whose species had traveled between stars when Earth was still a ball of molten rock. His body was thin and gray, with large dark eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of 100 civilizations. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," he said. "I know the journey was difficult for many of you, but we face a crisis that cannot wait. We must discuss the human problem." A ripple of anxiety passed through the assembled delegates. The human problem. Those 3 words had haunted the council for 3 centuries now, ever since the strange, violent little species from the 3rd planet of an unremarkable yellow star had stumbled into the galactic community. Delegate Sura of the Kethrani hive was the first to speak. She was insectoid in appearance, with gleaming black eyes and mandibles that clicked together when she was nervous. They were clicking now. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Our intelligence networks have reported concerning developments, but we lack complete information." Chancellor Morveth activated the central display. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared, with human-controlled space highlighted in blue. 300 years ago, that blue area had been a tiny dot, barely visible. Now it stretched across an entire spiral arm. In 300 years since first contact, humanity has colonized 97 worlds, Chancellor Morveth announced. They have built a fleet of over 10,000 faster-than-light capable vessels. Their population has grown to 47 billion, and their rate of expansion is accelerating. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Ambassador Prenell, of the Scytheran Dominion, a tall being covered in iridescent scales, rose from his seat. "This was not supposed to happen," he said. "When we first discovered humanity, our scientists studied them extensively. They were supposed to destroy themselves. Every model, every simulation, every prediction said they would not survive. Their aggression levels alone should have guaranteed mutual annihilation. Within 50 cycles of discovering atomic weapons, every model predicted their extinction," agreed Sura. "The aggression markers in their psychology, their tribal nature, the violence encoded in their very genetics. By all scientific understanding, they should be dust and ash by now. A dead world that never reached the stars." Chancellor Morveth dimmed the bioluminescent patches on his skin, a sign of deep distress among his people. Instead, they not only survived, but thrived. And now they are asking questions. Dangerous questions. Their scientists are probing the edges of what we have hidden from them. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Every delegate understood what this meant. The great secret, buried for 12,000 years, was in danger of being discovered. High Priest Vorath of the Netherian Conclave spoke next. His species communicated primarily through telepathy, but he vocalized for the benefit of those who could not receive mental transmissions. "We should have done more," he said, his 4 eyes blinking in distress. "We should have eliminated them when we had the chance. When they were still confined to their single world, when their destruction could have been made to look natural. We tried, Ambassador Zithrak reminded him. We introduced diseases. We encouraged their internal conflicts. We manipulated their leaders into hostility against each other. We did everything short of direct intervention, which is forbidden by our most ancient laws. Perhaps it is time to reconsider those laws, suggested Purnell. Chancellor Morvith raised a thin hand. Let us not speak of such things lightly. The prohibition against direct extermination of a sentient species has stood for 50,000 years. It is the foundation of our council. To break it would be to destroy everything we have built. But if the alternative is the discovery of the Great Secret, Purnell countered, then perhaps destruction is preferable. You all know what they will do if they learn the truth. You all know what they are capable of. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. They did know. That was precisely why they were so afraid. Dr. Lissa Chen, the human ambassador to the council, had once asked a simple question at a diplomatic reception. She'd been curious about the gaps in galactic history. The missing records from 12,000 years ago, the ruins that no species would discuss. It had been an innocent question, born of natural curiosity. It had terrified every alien in the room. There are those among my people who advocate for acceptance, said Ambassador Zithrak. They believe humans can be integrated into galactic society, that their energy and creativity can be channeled for good.
No.
Those are the words of fools and dreamers, Sura snapped. Humans cannot be contained. They cannot be controlled. Have you not seen how they respond to every obstacle? They do not go around problems. They do not accept limitations. They break through. They find ways that should not exist. They change the rules themselves. Chancellor Morvith nodded slowly. This is precisely what we feared from the beginning. This is why the precursors created them. The word hung in the air like poison. The precursors. The ancient race that had ruled the galaxy 2 million years ago. The ones who had left behind the Great Secret. We must make a decision, Chancellor Morvith continued. Humanity is on the verge of discovering what they truly are. If we act now, perhaps we can still prevent it. If we wait much longer, it will be too late. What do you propose? Asked Vorath, Chancellor Morvith. Looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. His ancient eyes held a mixture of fear and resignation. We must accelerate our timeline, he said. We must find a way to stop humanity before they learn the truth, before they understand why they were created, before they claim the inheritance that was meant for them. The chamber fell silent once more. Every delegate understood what the Chancellor was truly suggesting. After 12,000 years of subtle manipulation, the Galactic Council was about to take more direct action against humanity. They only hoped it was not already too late. The colony world of New Montana was a quiet place. It was the kind of world that attracted people who wanted to get away from the noise and crowds of Earth in the older colonies. Rolling plains stretched for thousands of miles under a pale blue sky. And the nights were so dark and clear that you could see the spiral arm of the galaxy with your naked eye. Danny Holloway loved those nights. He worked at the Kepler Array Observatory, a collection of massive radio telescopes spread across the northern continent. His job was simple, but important. He monitored the signals that came from deep space, looking for patterns that might indicate new phenomena or, in his secret hopes, signs of intelligence beyond what humanity had already discovered. On this particular night, he was alone in the control room. His colleague, Claire Brennan, had gone to get coffee from the break room down the hall. The only sound was the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep of incoming data. Danny was about to doze off when something caught his attention. One of the monitors was showing a pattern he had never seen before. At first, he thought it was a glitch. The signal was coming from the cosmic background radiation, the faint echo of the universe's birth that filled all of space. That radiation was supposed to be random, just noise left over from the beginning of time, but this was not random. This was structured. This had a pattern. Claire, Danny called out, come look at this. Claire Brennan walked back into the room, a steaming cup of coffee in her hands. She was a physicist, one of the best in the colonies, with a mind that could see connections others missed. When she looked at the monitor, her coffee stopped halfway to her lips. "That's impossible," she whispered. "I know," Danny replied. "But there it is." Claire set down her coffee and pulled up a chair. For the next 3 hours, they analyzed the signal together. The more they looked, the more certain they became. This was not natural. This was a message encoded in the very fabric of the universe itself, and based on the decay patterns, it had been playing on a loop for at least 12,000 years. Who could have done this? Danny asked. The Velnor, the Scytherin. Claire shook her head. None of the current species have technology anywhere near this level. This is something else entirely, something older. She paused, her eyes widening. Danny, I think this might be from the precursors. The precursors were more legend than history. Every spacefaring species had stories about them. The ancient race that had ruled the galaxy before any current civilization existed. But solid evidence of their existence was rare, and what little remained was closely guarded by the Galactic Council. "We need to report this," Danny said. "Wait," Claire replied. "Look at this part of the signal."
Yes.
There's a set of coordinates embedded in the pattern. It's pointing to a specific location in the Vela remnant. Danny felt a chill run down his spine. The Vela remnant was a restricted zone. The Galactic Council had declared it off-limits centuries ago, claiming it was too dangerous for exploration. No one questioned this because no one had any reason to go there anyway until now. Across the galaxy, in a monitoring station that humanity did not know existed, an alarm began to flash. The station was crewed by Kathrani observers, insectoid beings whose entire purpose was to watch human communications for signs of dangerous discoveries. When they saw what Danny and Claire had found, they immediately sent a priority message to the Galactic Council. The humans were getting close. Too close. Meanwhile, aboard the survey vessel Wandering Star, Captain Lucy Martinez received an encrypted transmission from Earth's Science Directorate. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. Her orders were to proceed immediately to the Vela remnant and investigate an anomalous signal source. She was to maintain radio silence and avoid contact with any Galactic Council vessels. Lucy was a veteran of 20 years in space. She had explored uncharted systems, negotiated with hostile species, and survived situations that should have killed her. But something about this mission felt different. The secrecy, urgency, the fact that they were being sent to a region that every other species considered forbidden. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's intercom. "We have new orders. Set course for the Vela remnant. Maximum speed." Her first officer, Greg Dunn, looked up from his console with concern. He was a big man with a calm demeanor, the kind of person you wanted beside you when things went wrong. "Captain, that's uncharted territory," he said. "The Council treaties are very clear. That region is off-limits to all exploration." "I know what the treaties say, Greg. If we violate them, it could cause a diplomatic incident. The Council has been looking for excuses to restrict human expansion. This could give them exactly what they want." Lucy turned to face him. Her eyes were steady, her voice calm. "I've been a captain for 15 years. In all that time, I've followed the rules. I've respected the treaties. I've done everything the Council asked of us." "And you know what I've learned?" Greg shook his head. "I've learned that the Council is hiding something. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. Every time we get close to certain questions, they change the subject. Every time we try to explore certain regions, they tell us it's too dangerous. They've been managing humanity like we're children who can't be trusted with the truth." She looked out the viewport at the stars streaming past. Maybe they're right to be cautious. Maybe there's a good reason for all the secrets. But I think it's time we found out for ourselves. Don't you? Greg was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Course laid in, Captain. We'll reach the Vela remnant in 6 days." "Good. And Greg, make sure our weapons are ready. I have a feeling we might need them." Back on New Montana, Danny and Claire had made a decision. They would not report their discovery through official channels. Something told them that if they did, it would be buried, classified, forgotten. Instead, they contacted a friend in the Science Directorate directly, someone they knew would take them seriously. That friend had contacted Captain Martinez. Now, As the wandering star raced toward the forbidden region of space, Danny and Claire continued to decode the ancient signal. With each passing hour, they uncovered more of its secrets. And with each secret, they became more certain that humanity had been lied to about something fundamental. The truth was out there, waiting in the darkness between the stars, and for the first time in 12,000 years, someone was finally going to find it. The wandering star dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vela remnant, and for a long moment no one on the bridge could speak. What they saw through the viewport was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered, beyond anything they had ever imagined. A Dyson sphere, a complete shell built around an entire star. But the star at its center had died long ago, leaving only a cold, dark core. The sphere itself was massive beyond comprehension, large enough to hold 1 billion Earths within its hollow interior. And it was old. The readings showed construction materials that had been in place for at least 2 million years. "Captain," Lucy Martinez gripped the arms of her command chair. "That's not possible," she said quietly. "The Galactic Council told us the oldest spacefaring civilization was the Velnor. They're only 800,000 years old. Someone lied to us," Greg Dunn replied. His voice was flat, controlled, but Lucy could hear the anger beneath it. Dr. Hannah Price, the ship's archaeologist, was already running scans. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and endless curiosity, the kind of scientist who had spent her entire life searching for answers. Now, she had found something that made all her previous discoveries look insignificant. "The surface is covered in symbols," she reported. "Warning markers, I think, and the style matches nothing in our databases. This is a completely unknown civilization." "The precursors," Lucy said. "It was not a question. Has to be," Hannah agreed. "Nothing else makes sense." Lucy made her decision quickly. "We're going in. Prepare a landing team." They found an entrance on the sphere's surface, a massive doorway that opened as they approached, as if the ancient structure had been waiting for them. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. Emergency lights flickered to life as they walked, illuminating corridors that stretched into the darkness. The architecture was beautiful and strange. The walls were covered in murals, depicting beings that looked somewhat humanoid, but clearly were not human. They had elongated limbs, large eyes, and skin that seemed to shimmer even in the paintings. These were the precursors, the race that had ruled the galaxy before any current civilization existed. Hannah documented everything. "I got a recorder capturing images and readings that would revolutionize the study of galactic history. But it was the central chamber that held the real prize. The archive room was enormous. It's filled with crystalline storage devices that hummed with preserved data. A central console sat at the heart of the room, and as Lucy approached, it activated automatically. A holographic figure appeared, one of the precursors, preserved as a recorded message. The figure spoke in a language that should have been incomprehensible, but somehow the meaning translated directly into their minds. "If you are seeing this message, then you have finally found your way home," the precursor said. "I am Keeper Vorith, last guardian of the archive. I have waited 2 million years to deliver this message to you, the children of our final hope." Lucy felt her heart pounding. Children? The precursor had said children. "We discovered a terrible truth," the recording continued. "The universe itself is dying. Entropy is accelerating beyond all natural limits. Within 1 million years, all stars will burn out. All matter will decay. All life will end. We searched for a solution for 100,000 years, but we could not find one. Our minds were too ordered, too logical, too bound by the rules of reality." The hologram flickered, and new images appeared. DNA sequences, genetic blueprints, design specifications. "So we created you," Vorith said. "Humanity. A new species designed from the ground up to do what we could not. We gave you aggression, so you would never accept defeat. We gave you creativity, so you would find solutions that should not exist. We gave you stubbornness, so you would never stop trying. We gave you the ability to break the rules themselves." Lucy's hands were shaking. Beside her, Hannah was crying silently, tears running down her face. "We seeded your world and watched over you for 100,000 years. We guided your evolution, nudged your development, prepared you for the task ahead. But our time ran out before you were ready. Our civilization fell to the very entropy we sought to defeat. All that remains is this archive, in the hope that you will find it." The hologram of Vorath looked directly at them, and despite knowing it was just a recording, Lucy felt like he was seeing her, truly seeing her. "The solution is here, in this archive. The mathematics, the technology, the methods you will need to restart the universe itself. It will require every ounce of your human nature. Every bit of your aggression and creativity and stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. You were made for this purpose. This is your inheritance." The recording paused, and Vorath's expression changed. He looked sad now, almost apologetic. "There is one more thing you must know. After our fall, other species rose to take our place. They found fragments of our records. They learned of our plan. They were afraid. They feared what you might become. They feared that a species designed to break the rules might become too powerful too. Control. New images appeared, showing familiar aliens. The Velnor, the Kathrani, the Scytherin, the entire Galactic Council. They have been watching you since your beginning. They have tried to destroy you in subtle ways, hoping you would never learn the truth. They introduced diseases to cull your population. They encouraged your wars. They sabotaged your early attempts to reach the stars. They have spent 12,000 years trying to ensure you would never fulfill your purpose." Lucy's sadness transformed into cold, hard anger. 12,000 years. 12,000 years of manipulation. 12,000 years of secret warfare against her species. Every plague, every conflict, every setback that had nearly destroyed humanity now took on a new meaning. "But you are here now," Vorath continued. "You have found the truth. The choice is yours. You can seek revenge against those who wronged you, or you can rise above their fears and become what we always knew you could be, the saviors of everything that exists." The recording ended, and the chamber fell silent. Lucy stood motionless for a long moment, processing everything she had learned. Then she turned to her crew. "Download everything," she ordered. "Every file, every record, every piece of data in this archive. We're taking it all back to Earth, and then," Greg asked. Lucy's expression was hard as stone. "And then we're going to have a very long conversation with the Galactic Council. They have a lot to answer for." As the crew began their work, Hannah approached Lucy with a portable data pad. "Captain, I found the solution Vorath mentioned. The method to restart the universe. It's here, complete and ready to be implemented. Can we do it? Do we have the technology?" Hannah looked at the equations scrolling across her screen. They were beyond complex, beyond anything human science had ever attempted. But somewhere deep in her mind, in the parts of her brain that the precursors had engineered for exactly this purpose, she could see the path forward. "Not yet," she admitted. "But we will. Give us 50 years, maybe less. We'll figure it out," Lucy nodded slowly. "Then we'd better get started. The universe isn't going to save itself." She paused and looked around the ancient chamber. At the legacy left behind by beings who had believed in humanity before humanity even existed. Well, she corrected herself with a grim smile, actually. "I suppose that's exactly what's going to happen. The universe is going to save itself. Because we're going to save it." The news spread through human space faster than any signal could travel. Within hours of the wandering stars' return to Earth, the discovery was everywhere. News networks broadcast the story on every channel. Social media exploded with reactions. Scientists downloaded the precursor archives and began studying them with desperate intensity. And across 97 colony worlds, billions of humans learned the truth about what they really were. They learned that they had been created for a purpose. They learned that the universe was dying and they alone could save it. And they learned that every alien species they had ever encountered had been working to destroy them for 12,000 years. The reaction was not what the Galactic Council expected. There was anger, certainly. Massive protests erupted on a dozen worlds. Effigies of council ambassadors were burned in public squares. Several human colonies expelled their alien residents. and there were calls for immediate military action against the species that had tried to exterminate humanity. But beneath the anger, there was something else. Something that the Council had never anticipated. There was determination. Admiral Kevin Shaw stood on the bridge of the dreadnought, unconquered. Flagship of Earth's combined fleet. He was 63 years old, a veteran of 4 decades in the military. And he had spent his entire career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now he faced something far more complex than any battle he had imagined. "Open a channel to the Council station," he ordered. Priority Alpha. Direct address to all member species. The communications officer looked nervous. "Sir, the Council has not responded to any of our previous attempts at contact. They've recalled all their ambassadors and sealed their borders." "They'll respond to this one," Shaw replied calmly. "Because if they don't, I'm going to personally lead this fleet into their space and make them respond." The channel opened. Shaw's face appeared on screens across the galaxy. In council chambers and military headquarters and diplomatic offices of every member species. "Speaking on behalf of the United Human Federation," he began, "you know who I am? You know what we have discovered? And you know that we have every right to be furious with you." In the obsidian chamber of the council station, Chancellor Morvith watched the transmission with ancient, weary eyes. Around him, delegates from 43 species sat in terrified silence. Their secret was out. Their 12,000-year conspiracy had been exposed. And now, humanity was coming to collect the debt. "You engineered us to save the universe," Shaw continued on the screen. "You literally designed our species to be the solution to the greatest problem in existence. And then you tried to kill us for being exactly what you made us to be." Delegate Sura's mandibles clicked nervously. Ambassador Prinal's scales had lost their iridescent sheen. Even High Priest Voroth, who could sense the emotions of beings across vast distances, flinched at the fury emanating from the human transmission. "You sabotaged our early space programs," Shaw said. "You manipulated our governments into conflict. You released diseases that killed millions of our people. You watched us bleed in wars that you orchestrated, hoping that we would finish the job for you, hoping that we would destroy ourselves before we could fulfill our purpose." Chancellor Morvith attempted to activate his own transmission system. His thin fingers trembled as he reached for the controls. "Admiral Shaw, please, you must understand our position," he said. "Your species is dangerous, unpredictable. We could not risk allowing you to develop unchecked. The potential consequences were too severe." Shaw's expression hardened. "Risk what, Chancellor?" "Risk us solving the problem you were too afraid to face. Risk us saving everyone, including you. Risk you becoming something we could not control," Morvith replied. "You do not understand what we have seen. The precursors created other species before you. Failed experiments. Beings of terrible power who turned on their creators and destroyed entire civilizations. We feared you would follow the same path, so you decided to commit genocide instead," Shaw said flatly. "You decided that murdering an entire species was preferable to taking a chance that we might be good." The chamber fell silent. There was no argument to be made, no justification that could erase what the Council had done. On Earth, in the laboratory complex that had been hastily constructed to study the precursor archives, Dr. Danny Holloway and Claire Brennan had decoded the solution completely. The mathematics were elegant, almost beautiful in their complexity. A way to reverse entropic decay across the entire universe. A method to restart the cosmic cycle. To ignite new stars from the quantum foam itself, it would require technology that did not yet exist. Energy manipulation on a scale that seemed impossible. A coordinated effort spanning decades and involving resources from across human space. But it could be done. "It's insane," Claire said, reviewing the equations for the 100th time. "The energy requirements alone are beyond anything we've ever achieved. We'd need to harness the power of multiple stars simultaneously." Danny leaned back in his chair and smiled. "Good thing we're human. We specialize in impossible." Claire looked at him with a mixture of exhaustion and wonder. "You really believe we can do this? Save the entire universe?" I believe we were made for this, Danny replied. Every part of our nature, all the things that make us difficult and stubborn and dangerous. They were all designed to lead to this moment. The precursors knew what they were doing. They built us to be the answer. The transmission from Admiral Shaw continued to play in the background. You have a choice, Shaw was saying to the council. You can continue to oppose us. You can try to stop us from doing what we were created to do. If that is your decision, then know this. We will not hesitate to defend ourselves. You have been trying to destroy us for 12,000 years, and you have failed. You will continue to fail. Because we do not give up. We do not accept defeat. We were literally designed to break through every obstacle. Shaw paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was different. Calmer. Almost gentle. Or you can make a different choice. You can help us. The precursor solution will save everyone, not just humanity. Every species, every world, every civilization in the galaxy will survive because of what we are about to do. You can be part of that. You can stand beside us instead of against us. In the council chamber, Ambassador Zithrak's crystalline form flickered with complex emotions. He remembered the early days, thousands of years ago, when his people had first joined the effort to suppress humanity. They had been so certain that they were doing the right thing, so convinced that humans were a threat that needed to be eliminated. Now he was not so sure. What do you want from us? Chancellor Morvith asked. Shaw's answer was immediate. We want the truth. No more secrets. No more manipulation. We want full access to all precursor archives and all council records related to humanity. We want the sabotage operations against our species to end immediately and permanently. And we want your commitment to support the Salvation Project. And if we refuse? Shaw's expression did not change. Then we will proceed without you. We do not need your help to save the universe, but we are willing to accept it if you are willing to offer it. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in silence. Chancellor Morvith looked around at the assembled delegates. Beings who had worked together for thousands of years to suppress a species they feared. Beings who had committed acts of terrible cruelty in the name of self-preservation. Beings who now had to decide whether to continue down that path or to choose something different. We vote, he said quietly. The future of the galaxy depends on what we decide here today. One by one, the delegates cast their votes. And as the tallies accumulated, something unprecedented began to happen. The Galactic Council, for the first time in its history, chose to trust humanity. It was not unanimous. Several species voted to continue opposition. A few abstained entirely. But the majority, driven by fear and hope and something that might have been shame, decided to accept Admiral Shaw's offer. The message was sent. The cooperation would begin in humanity. The species that was never meant to survive began the work of saving everything that existed. 50 years passed faster than anyone expected. The work consumed humanity with a passion that surprised even those who had studied their species for millennia. Scientists from 97 colony worlds collaborated on problems that should have taken centuries to solve. Engineers built machines that seemed to defy the laws of physics. And slowly, piece by piece, the Prometheus Array took shape. It was the largest structure ever built by any species in the history of the galaxy. A network of energy collectors spanning 3 solar systems, connected by channels of directed force that could focus the power of stars themselves. When completed, it would generate enough energy to restart the cosmic cycle and reverse the entropic decay that was slowly killing the universe. The Galactic Council had kept their promise. Resources flowed from every member species. Alien scientists worked alongside human researchers, combining knowledge that had been kept separate for thousands of years. And as they worked together, something unexpected began to happen. The fear began to fade. Ambassador Zithrak stood on an observation platform overlooking the primary collection node. Watching human workers move in carefully choreographed patterns around energy conduits that pulsed with captured starlight, beside him stood Admiral Lucy Martinez, a fleet admiral and commander of the Joint Human Council Task Force overseeing the project. My people have lived for 800,000 years, Zithrek said. His crystalline form shimmered with colors that indicated deep contemplation. In all that time, we have built nothing that compares to this. We have achieved nothing that will matter on this scale. Lucy nodded slowly. Your people have done remarkable things. The Council has maintained peace across the galaxy for millennia. That's not nothing. Peace built on fear, Zithrik replied. Peace maintained by suppressing anyone who might disturb the order. We called ourselves wise and ancient, but in truth we were simply afraid. Afraid of change? Afraid of power? Afraid of species like yours who might force us to be different. And now? Zithrak turned to face her directly. His species communicated as much through light patterns as through words, and the colors rippling across his form spoke of shame and regret and something that might have been hope. Now I look at what your people are building, and I feel something I have not felt in centuries. Wonder you were created to break the rules, and you are doing exactly that. You are breaking the most fundamental rule of all. You are refusing to let the universe end. Lucy smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. We've lost a lot of people getting here. Scientists who worked themselves to death, engineers who died in accidents, soldiers who gave their lives defending the project against those who still want to stop us. Not every species had accepted the Council's decision. The Netherian Conclave had withdrawn from the Alliance and launched several attacks on project facilities. They had been defeated, but at a cost. I know, Zithrak said, and I know that my people bear much of the responsibility for the suffering your species has endured. If we had trusted you from the beginning, if we had helped instead of hindered, perhaps the path would have been easier. Perhaps Lucy acknowledged. But we're here now. That's what matters. The final session of the Galactic Council was held on the day the Prometheus Array was declared operational. The obsidian chamber that had hosted so many secret meetings was now open to the galaxy, broadcast on every channel across every world. Human representatives sat at the head of the table, not as newcomers to be managed, but as the architects of salvation. Chancellor Morvith had aged visibly in the past 50 years. His thin frame was even thinner now, his movements slower, but his eyes were clear, and when he spoke, his voice still carried the weight of ages. We are gathered here to witness the culmination of a journey that began 2 million years ago, he announced. The precursors created humanity to save the universe. Today, humanity fulfills that purpose. Admiral Lucy Martinez rose to address the assembly. She was older now, her hair gray, and her face lined with the marks of decades of struggle. But she stood tall and straight, a leader who had brought her species from the edge of extinction to the threshold of immortality. The Prometheus Array will be activated in 6 hours, she said. When it fires, it will release a wave of regenerative energy that will spread across the universe at faster than light speed. Entropic decay will be reversed. Stars that were dying will be renewed. The universe will have a second chance. She paused and looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. Beings who had once tried to destroy her species now watched with expressions of gratitude and awe. This is not a victory for humanity alone, Lucy continued. This is a victory for everyone. Every species. Every world. Every civilization that exists or will ever exist. We did this together, and we should celebrate it together. Ambassador Zithrak spoke next. His crystal form blazed with colors of joy and gratitude that every species could interpret. We tried to destroy you, he said. We spent millennia working toward your extinction. Why would you save us? Why would you include us in this moment of triumph? Lucy smiled, and in that smile was everything that made humanity what it was. The stubbornness that had kept them fighting when all hope seemed lost. The creativity that had found solutions to impossible problems. The capacity for both fury and forgiveness that defined their nature. Because that's what we were made for, she said simply. Not just to survive. To protect every species. Every world. Even the ones who tried to kill us. Chancellor Morvith bowed his ancient head. Across the chamber, delegates from 43 species did the same. It was a gesture of respect and gratitude, and something deeper. An acknowledgement that they had been wrong about humanity, that the species they had feared most had become their greatest hope. "We were fools," Morvith said quietly. "We saw your capacity for destruction and missed your greater capacity for creation. We thought you were a threat. Instead, you were always meant to be our salvation." The activation of the Prometheus array was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds watched as the collected energy of 3 stars was focused and released in a single, perfect pulse. The wave of regenerative force expanded outward, invisible but immeasurably powerful, beginning a process that would take millions of years to complete, but that would ultimately save everything that existed on Earth. Danny Holloway and Claire Brennan watched the event from the observatory where it had all begun 50 years ago. They were old now, their hair white and their hands trembling. But their eyes were bright with the joy of seeing their life's work fulfilled. "We actually did it," Claire whispered. "We saved the universe." Danny took her hand and squeezed it gently. "The precursors always knew we would. They built us for exactly this purpose." "You ever wonder what comes next?" Claire asked. "Now that we've done what we were created to do, what happens to humanity?" Danny was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars through the observatory window. Stars that would now burn forever, thanks to what humanity had accomplished. "I think we do what we've always done," he finally replied. "We find new problems to solve. We explore. We create. We push the boundaries of what's possible. That's who we are. That's who the precursors made us to be." As humanity spread across the galaxy in the years that followed, they were no longer outsiders. They were no longer feared or hated or suppressed. They were guardians, protectors. The species that had saved everyone when no one else could. The secret meeting of the Galactic Council passed into legend. The species that was never meant to know the truth had learned it anyway. And instead of rage, they had chosen to answer betrayal with grace. In the end, the precursors had known exactly what they were doing when they created humanity. They had built a species stubborn enough to never give up, creative enough to break any rule, and good enough to save even their enemies and humanity. Stubborn and brilliant and impossibly resilient. Had done exactly that, the universe would live forever now.